Sitting on the couch, picking up the remote. The thumb hovers over the button, freezes. Nothing is happening. Yet the stillness feels wrong. Something needs to be done. No idea what, just, this can't be it. The smartphone comes out. Inbox opens. 0 new messages. The anxiety remains. Most of us know this feeling. Resting. Yet the mind refuses to settle. The mere fact of doing nothing turns into a quiet pressure. The common belief goes like this: rest is a reward. Rewards are earned. This is not a failure of willpower, not a flaw in character. It is a flaw in design. UC Irvine. Researchers tracked daily life in real time. One question: what are you feeling right now? The results were sharp. Of all moments people reported as resting, 14.3% were laced with guilt. Rest 7 times. One of those will hurt. 1/7 of your downtime contaminated. Here is the stranger part. Even when weekend rest increased, guilt did not decrease. The problem is not how long you rest, it is how you see rest. That perception rewires behavior. More than half of all workers never used their full vacation days. Among those who did leave, 49% worked at least 1 hour every day. The body at the resort, the mind still at the desk. This phenomenon does not respect borders. China, 17 provinces, 155 universities, roughly 25,000 college students surveyed. Researchers gave it a name: leisure intolerance. During rest, guilt, anxiety, and self-criticism arrive simultaneously. This is not a mood. It is a repeatable, measurable pattern. Nursing students alone confirm the same. More than half cannot tolerate rest. At the center of every symptom cluster, one single survey item: I feel equally guilty whether resting or playing. Not anxiety, not comparison, not pressure. Guilt itself occupied the center of the network. The strongest driver of leisure intolerance? Anxiety. Next, stress. Then, social media addiction. Watching everyone else's highlight reel on repeat, and reading your own stillness as falling behind. The inverse held. Higher health literacy, more positive interpretation of rest. Those taught that rest is weakness cannot rest. Those who know rest is necessity can. Knowledge is a stronger shield than most assume. A study compared the US, India, and France. One metric: how deeply each culture internalized the belief leisure is wasteful. France scored low. The US and India scored high. But the real finding came next. Once the belief took hold, the rise in depression, anxiety, and stress was identical across all 3 nations. French, American, Indian. The moment any of them believed rest is waste, mental health collapsed in the same direction. Culture can be a shield. Once breached, the damage is universal. A study of 550 Chinese university students pinpointed the cause. What prevents rest is not familial duty, not collective sacrifice. The stronger driver? Competition. The need to outperform. The sense that falling behind is final. This competition channels through status anxiety and turns rest into sin. East or west, no difference. One force prevents rest: the fear of being left behind. Where did this fear come from? The answer requires 2 directions of time travel. One, 100,000 years back. The other, 500 years back. First, 100,000 years ago. The brain was built on the African savanna. There, doing nothing was not rest, it was exposure. A stationary body on an open plain. First thing a predator spots. Move or hide. Standing still was never an option, so the brain evolved to increase arousal precisely during inactivity. The amygdala, threat detector, and the stress hormone system activate harder when the body stops. This is why rest feels unsafe. The brain still runs on savanna rules. Primate studies repeat the same scene. Lower the rank, higher the cortisol during rest. The threat could come at any moment, so the brain runs threat simulations non-stop. Bring this mechanism to the present. The scenery changes, the structure does not. A supervisor's feedback, comparison with peers, a phone notification in the pocket. To the brain, these are no different from lions on the savannah. These lions do not vanish at closing time. The phone stays in the pocket. 24 hours. Every after-hours email check drives cortisol higher. The worst part? You do not even need to check. The mere feeling that you should is enough to lock the body out of recovery mode. Stress hormones keep flowing. They shrink the hippocampus, the seat of memory and learning. The drive for productivity, run without pause, eats the cognitive foundation productivity depends on. Neuroscience has a name for this: evolutionary mismatch. Biology alone does not explain this. On top of 100,000 years of instinct, 500 years of culture was layered. 16th century Europe. Martin Luther redefined work as calling. The farmer plowing the field and the monk in prayer, equal before God. John Calvin's predestination lit the match. Salvation was already decided. People grew anxious. They began searching for proof in the real world. Diligent work, accumulated wealth, these became evidence of divine favor. Wasting time became the greatest sin, an obstruction of God's glory. Max Weber named it the Protestant work ethic. He argued it became the psychological foundation of capitalism. The religious fervor cooled. The compulsion to work did not. Weber called it the iron cage. First, people worked because they wanted to. Now, they cannot stop without anxiety. Salvation disappeared. Diligence remained as obligation. The iron cage spread worldwide under a new name: meritocracy. Work hard, succeed. Beneath that motto, poverty became not a structural failure, but a personal defect. The 21st century. The iron cage evolved into a digital shackle. The promise of working from anywhere became the pressure of working everywhere. The result? In numbers? As of 2024, 52% of the global workforce reported burnout. US, 77%. UK, 65%. Japan, 61%. Southeast Asia average, 63%. Women, 59%. Men, 46%. The double burden of domestic and professional labor, visible in the gap. Teachers, 63% reported burnout. Doctors, 43%. Public health workers, 39%. The more a profession cares for others, the less time it leaves for self-care. OECD data sharpens the picture. Germany, 1,343 hours per year, the lowest in the OECD. Mexico, 2,226 hours, nearly double. Yet the happiness ranking inverts. Costa Rica, far longer hours than Germany, ranks 12th. Germany, 24th. Long hours do not guarantee misery. Short hours do not guarantee happiness. In Costa Rica, after-work hours go to family and community. Strong bonds buffer the stress of long labor. What makes the difference is not how long you work, it is where your rest goes. Silvia Bellezza at Columbia Business School revealed the critical scene. Same delivery service, same item. One user, too busy to shop. Another has the leisure to shop. People assigned higher status to the busy one. Busyness became a signal. I am scarce. I am in demand. Bellezza identified the key condition. Only in societies that believe effort leads to success does busyness become status. In societies where class is fixed, busyness is just exhaustion. In the US, busyness signals success. In Italy, leisure signals wealth. In Germany, cultivated free time earns the highest regard. Some nations wear busyness as a medal. Others read it as a deficit of freedom. Which one do you live in? So what now? Evolutionary anxiety. 5 centuries of work ethic. Digital shackles. All three tighten simultaneously. But science makes one thing clear. Rest is not a halt in production. It is the brain's scheduled maintenance. A massive circuit activates when you do nothing. It is called the default mode network. During rest, it consolidates memory, revisits the self, solves creative problems. Scan a burnout patient's brain. The core connections of this circuit severed. Communication between the self-awareness region and the reward region gone. Working endlessly, yet feeling nothing. Not a failure of spirit, a physical disconnection of neural circuits. In anxiety-disordered brains, the opposite occurs. The future simulation region fires excessively. Even at rest, the brain manufactures negative scenarios without pause. This is the neurological identity of pathological worry. Conversely, intentional rest restores this circuit. ANIOSH experiment. Office workers given 90-second breaks every 15 minutes. Productivity rose 6.45%. Extended to 2 minutes, 11.15%. A cross-industry meta-analysis found short breaks improved overall performance by 25%. Burnout dropped 30%. The longer you work, the more you produce. This formula is biologically false. Human attention and energy move in waves, not lines. Resting in sync with that rhythm, that is strategy. Merely viewing natural scenery initiates cooperation between the brain's self-reflection and attention circuits. 8 weeks of aerobic exercise raised the efficiency of emotion regulation regions. Mindfulness training prevents the brain from slipping into random rumination. Rest is not stopping, it is redirecting. Name your rest, not lazy time, cognitive maintenance. Change the label. The brain reclassifies that time. Rest short and often. Every 15 minutes, 90 seconds. Do not wait for a perfect hour. Seize 90 seconds now. More realistic, more effective. Rest together when possible. Guilt drops when rest is shared. The brain categorizes that time as social activity. Higher income correlates with lower rest guilt. Financial stability functions as a license to pause. Conversely, financial insecurity turns rest into a perceived luxury. Guilt decreases with age. Students carry the most. Retirees the least. The further from the obligation to produce, the easier rest becomes. The implication is clear. Guilt is not personality. It is position. It is structure. That anxiety when you sit down to rest, it is not your voice. It is a signal sent simultaneously by 3 sources. An alarm system built on the savannah 100,000 years ago. A work ethic forged to prove salvation 500 years ago. A phone notification that buzzed in your pocket this morning. Reframe the question. Not, have I worked enough? Have I rested enough? Not, is rest a sin? Is the inability to rest a disease? Not, how heavy is my guilt? What structure manufactured this guilt? We were not born to work. We work to live. The answer does not lie in willpower. It lies in structure. And structure can be changed.